Call to order the Board of Aviation Commissioners, start with roll call.
Bachman.
Here.
Gavin. Here. Huian. Here. Morrison's absent. Witt. Here.
Approval of minutes from last month.
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mark's gonna ask you to sign these.
Okay.
Is Mark on?
He's pictures up.
Oh,
Yep.
hi, Mark.
Right
You're-
here. Hi, Phil.
Hi.
Andy sees us this time.
You
Second,
are up.
Here in town.
We're ready for you, Mark, if you have something to say.
oh, I have something to say. Curtis is enjoying the Aviation Association's annual conference banquet dinner at a casino in South Bend, according to Bill.
And I'm going as soon as we get done.
So I stepped in. You're once again laden with my virtual presence in this meeting. But I'll be I did not have a chance to discuss Curtis's agenda, so I'll just briefly go through what he has written in his report. I was actually at the airport this morning. So I saw Bill and gave him copies of the report. If you handed those out, Bill, I
Did.
All right, well, let's get started. It looks like that he is asking. I think you and Curtis, Bill, you met to discuss the future capital improvement plan or CIP submittal, the projects and the timing of such. It looks like he added at the last minute. That's why you start with attachment F, which is the last sheet of the report. It looks like there's a summary of CIP projects. I don't have any, I say insight to that, but it looks like he is looking at least for a preliminary approval to proceed on the CIP summary that he and Bill has prepared. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Bill?
Only that we have a meeting next Tuesday, would be the 21st. I believe at 1 o'clock till maybe 1:30, 1 o'clock or 1:30 for 45 minutes for our CIP meeting with NDOT and the FAA. I'm planning to do it from my classroom for the kids to sit in on and listen to what a CIP meeting sounds like. Other than that, the one thing that came up when Curtis and I talked was somewhere adding in needing to do a master plan. Not something that I know we needed, but he suggested that it's something that we do. And subsequent meetings that Phil has been in, I think it's a good idea to do.
So I would suggest that you give Bill and Curtis a draft approval to present the draft CIP and make changes as necessary. I think there will be an opportunity at your next meeting because I believe the CIPs usually, when I was involved with them, were due right around the Thanksgiving time. So I think you'll have the opportunity in November to discuss it. But I think for that upcoming FAA NDOT meeting, at least a preliminary approval to go forward with the plan and make any adjustments that make sense to the board.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we just need to, I mean, is that a vote on that? I don't quite understand.
Well, I think based on what Curtis wrote in here, I think he's looking for some approval from the board, even
Okay.
if it's a preliminary, just to present
Okay,
the draft CIP agenda to NDOT and FAA at that virtual meeting, and then to make any adjustments as necessary for formal adoption, I would imagine, at your next meeting. But it does
Okay.
sound like Curtis is wanting some acknowledgement from the board to
Yep.
proceed with what you have so far, or what we have so far. Just looking at what Curtis wrote under board action for
right,
you.
yeah, I know.
So perhaps you can present in case there is action needed at that upcoming meeting. I would say just give approval to present the CIP as presented tonight to the attendees of the virtual meeting next week. And then give preliminary approval for any changes made, as Bill had mentioned. Perhaps the addition of a master plan at some point. I'm sure that will be an agenda item. And a master plan is generally I'm going to say a planning exercise to provide the FAA a lot of information that they use to be able to approve future projects. I just briefly looked over your CIP agenda, and it looks like I know we've been talking when I was working with you several years of resurfacing and widening out the part of the parallel taxiway that goes near the hangars, across the hangars to the apron. That does look like to be on there. It looks like there's an attempt to enclose the airport with more wildlife fencing. And then it looked like in the later years, after a couple of funding rollovers, to come up with money to purchase some land for some additional hangar development.
Give motion to approve this draft be presented at the upcoming meeting.
With permission to make amendments.
Yes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I'll tell you that an
Thank you.
amendment that will probably end up getting made at some point is. The fuel farm that's all the way down at the bottom will probably get moved up.
I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah.
I'll move on to the exciting part. AIP 27 project, the taxiway. In that more progress was made since the last meeting. And in fact, when I left the airport this afternoon, we were heading towards a first day opening of the taxiway. Did that indeed occur, Bill?
Kevin called me late in the day and said that their crew that was gonna come down and move all the barricades hit a 2-inch gas line at the job they were at. And they wouldn't be able to get away, so they're coming down first thing in the morning to remove the last of the barricading and silt fencing.
I know as I was leaving the airport, I said that from my observation, there was no longer a need for the silt fence and to start planning for the removal of that. So it looks like perhaps tomorrow morning will be the official opening of the taxiway. But Other than some pavement cleanup work, there was a couple of water spots that did not drain. They grinded out some of the asphalt to help facilitate drainage. They need to finish that, get in a more finishing grinder, get some seal coat on it. But other than that, Milestone is pretty much in the clear. I know Slushers has ran out of blanket to protect the grade from erosion if it rains. They need to finish that up. But as far as what I call critical,
Kevin said they'd be in tomorrow to do that also.
right, yeah. So as far as critical activities, Milestone is very much done. I do present to the board. Well, I'll just go through the format here. So my attachment A, it looks like Curtis has been giving you the previous month's weekly reports that I'm writing. So you'll see those for Michiana, or excuse me, for Milestone. I got two contractors that start with my. But going into the Michiana's work, they have the system in, at least the edge lighting. And as Bill has indicated, he has been running that system, burning out a lot of lights, but the system appears to be operational. So the only thing Michiana has left that I'm aware of is the installation of the guidance signs for the taxiways. They're lighted signs that are off to the side of the connecting taxiways that give pilots directional and situational awareness on the airport. So they are pretty much complete, except for the installation of those signs. I think they're awaiting their crew to finish up another job. I think they also was motivated by the rain earlier in the week to clear out, or earlier last week to clear out and wait for Milestone to get done. But it won't take them too long to do that. So what do I have for you in regards to the work? I have Milestones change order number 2. It is deducting $8,138.95 from their contract. If you recall, change order number 1 added a little less than 1,000. So overall, we finished Division A work about $7,000 less than the contract. So I would recommend to the board that you approve Milestone's change order number 2, deducting that amount from their contract.
Move that we approve change order 102, Milestone.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The invoices that are presented for this project, it looks like Curtis has finally gotten around to invoicing some of the Wolpert work that's gone into there the last 3 months. The Wolpert invoice dated September 9th, 2025 appears to be in the amount of $111,844.75. The 5th invoice from Michiana, they actually started quite a bit ago, I'm going to say in the month of June, and has continued. So their 5th invoice dated September 25th of 2025 is in the amount of $46,471.07, which I have reviewed and approved. And then there's Milestone's 3rd invoice dated September 19th, 2025. And they have earned $781,629.47. And of course, Those invoices are included in the pay request. That 90% of that value is requested from the FAA and 5% from NDOT, in which your share will be 5%. So I would request that the board approve those 3 invoices for payment upon receipt of the federal funds, and then approval of the FAA and NDOT pay requests, including those invoices.
I so move the approval of the supporting invoices as shown.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And don't forget the FAA and NDOT pay requests as well.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad. Yeah, we'll, that'll,
Be part of the motion.
And of course, anytime I present you an invoice that is based on labor, there is the Davis-Bacon review that goes along with that. Milestone for the invoice period and Michiana for the invoice period from last month to this month has submitted me their certified payroll records. I have compiled that information into a review letter in which I shared with Bill as airport manager this morning. And I am requesting that the board approve the review of compliance with the milestone Davis-Bacon records, and conditionally the apparent compliance of the Michiana Davis-Bacon. The one discrepancy in Michiana is they had an apprentice, an electrician apprentice, that they labeled as qualifying for their 70% pay program. He was about $6.36, or they're $6.76 per hour underpaid if he is a 70% apprentice. In my review of the Davis-Bacon Act, you can pay apprentices less than the minimum wage rates, but you need to pay them at the percentage that they are in the program. There was some 50% apprentices that were paid more than 50% of the minimums, but the 70% gentleman was paid less. So I have notified Michiana, and they are working to resolve that situation. So I would request the board again approve the milestone Davis-Bacon compliance letter submitted, and conditionally approve the Michiana Davis-Bacon review letter, conditional on making the 70% apprentice identified whole with the minimum wage.
I move that we approve the milestone Davis-Bacon Act as submitted, and then Michiana conditional approval upon that 75% apprentice being compensated as suggested.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And is there any questions regarding the taxiway? I know, Phil, I met you out at the airport for Alpha Flight's promotional conference last week. Is there any questions on what you see for the taxiway work?
Nope.
I think it turned out great. I really enjoyed working with Milestone. They were very conscientious. Michiana, of course, is always professional in the progress of their work, even though it's a little erratic at times, it seems. But no, very pleased with the work. The seating turned out well, and I think everybody will be pleased.
That's great.
Is there an
And
excellent?
most of all, we
Helps
were
you out.
financially, at least at this point, I haven't seen I have not. Milestone and I are very close to final quantities. I have not had an opportunity to discuss final quantities with Michiana, but I think we're going to be slightly under their contract as well. I know in the report I mentioned that there was a couple more edge lights removed than I had accounted for. But we also had a plan to install a few more edge lights than they actually did. So I think we'll be financially good. Yeah.
Okay.
So no, I hope all your pilots enjoy using that.
Hey, Mark, I have
And
a question. Apparently we blew a lot of bulbs when doing the test on it. Why did we do this?
I turned everything on for a week just so people
Right.
could see what we did,
Right.
and it's bulbs on the runway, they're used to not being on all the time.
Mhm.
So it's probably some older bulbs that.
So it's the older system bulbs.
Yes.
Okay, not the new ones.
Incandescents.
Okay.
yeah, I would imagine that Bill as manager was more of a confidence thing for him. It was not something that Michiana dictated. So if that was your question. And the only other thing I see in Curtis's report is just to let you know that Bain Welker, we have given them the permission. If you recall, last month you approved their contract. We have given them their approvals to order equipment. And based on Bill's conversation, it'll most likely be a spring 2026.
Actually, I called them today and I have it on my report that he told me today a January delivery.
Oh, okay. So that's earlier than expected.
Yep.
So then the next board action will basically be they will deliver the equipment, we'll inspect it. We'll go through the paperwork, then we'll get their invoices. So probably it sounds like your February meeting will take action to pay for the new snow removal equipment you'll get.
Good timing.
So that appears to be all I have to present to the board. Thank you for your time and your approvals. And as I said, or as Bill said, I had left him some of the documentation for you to sign, Phil.
Yeah,
Change order and the 2 pay request forms.
yes.
Then I'll get that into the system and get the money to the clerk treasurer's office.
Okay, anything else for Mark at this point? Thanks, Mark.
No, thank you.
I gave those forms to Kyle to scan and send to you since I'll be at the conference the next 2 days.
All right. Well, have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, quite a few additions here. I did speak at lunchtime today for the Kiwanis, asked me to come in and speak. I'm friends with John and Jeff Oliver, and John had asked me to speak to the Kiwanis at lunchtime, so I did that today. They seemed to enjoy what I had to tell them and learn some things. Concrete work, we've got the sonotubes are in, ready for the light poles to go up around the terminal apron. There's one behind the mailbox and then 2 somewhat equally spaced down the north side fence. And I do actually have a PO already approved for the electrician. I was gonna hire someone to actually do the wiring and try and figure out how to get the poles stood up, and he said he'd take care of that for me too. So I just went ahead and wrote the PO for everything, cause he's also gonna do some other work for me. He's gonna climb the tower tomorrow to replace the white light on the beacon. He didn't have the right harness to do it yet. And he's going to add some exterior receptacles for me for the new door stoops that we're adding. And the other day when he came in to discuss it, he also suggested adding some outside receptacles to each of the light poles, which I thought was a great idea, because right now we only have one out there for someone that wants to plug in their airplane. And that will spread some out around the place a little bit for that.
Cool.
Also concrete at the same time. We did spend $3,000 in concrete and sand. We got two of the T hangers, the front 10-foot finished. I think maybe Dr. Wick got a chance to see some of
I
that.
didn't see the finished product because
Came
they were
out
done
really
by the
nice.
time I got back, but
Came out really nice.
Good.
And we also got the extra pads poured for the next stoop that's gonna go over the double doors of the A hanger. Seating, we talked about that. Michiana, Mark pretty much covered all that well. Major event on 10/9 at the airport, Alpha Flight signed contracts for 4 new training aircraft. I think Phil joined us for that. That was in the newspaper. As well as I saw in the newspaper on their website today, something about what I'd mentioned on the run for next year was in their website today.
whose website?
I read on WTCA.
I was on them both. I was on WTCA's and I was also on the Plymouth Pilot website. So it was on one of those two's website.
The race?
It was the front page, front highlight when you open it up.
There was a mention of the race?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh. You send that to me? I had no idea.
It was on the radio on their like top of the hour thing.
Really?
Yeah, so 3 or 4 times I heard it today.
I handed him a copy of what you had
I didn't
sent
do a
me.
thing to get
sent to me.
that.
So there you go.
Sweet.
Gates for the new drive off of Lilac. We have them in the back of the truck. Just a matter of Joe and I finding the time that we're both there together as we've been, the two of us haven't really been there at the same time much. We'll probably start working on that next week. Lights burned out, we mentioned. We're done leaving it on all night long, so that should take care of that. I ordered 2 dozen lights last week. We used them all and I gotta get some more. It's all of them I can order without getting a PO, and I just wanted to see what we ended up with needing when we got done replacing those, and a few more burned out since that, and we found a few since that, so. I think Randy Longenecker still kind of promised that he might find some extras at their shop for me too, because I don't use them anymore.
Yeah, we're replacing with incandescent, right?
Yeah,
And at what point, I remember we asked this, and I don't remember the answer. At what point do we start replacing with
I
LED?
need to find out more about the system. Randy told me that those LEDs would be about, I was talking to him about burned out incandescents, and he said, well, you don't wanna know, cause I was telling him how much they've gone up since I started there, and he said, well, he said, when one of these LEDs burns out, he said, they're a couple $100. Which doesn't make sense to me, but I'm gonna have to find out more about that. So it sounds like, I know it's not a wiring issue because he told me that when they repaved and widened the runway in 2015,
Hmm.
they put new wiring in, so
They
there's
did.
already wiring there that can take the LEDs when we want to do it.
Sure.
So he said a lot of times the reason they end up changing is because the wiring's bad and they have to replace the wiring anyway.
Mhm.
But while they were moving them, they went ahead and changed it then.
Yeah.
So I know we have the proper wiring whenever we want to make the change. So CMA has come back around and they want to work with Alpha Flight for winter school. They've got 18 students. They're going to try and figure out how to get down to do some flight training, and they're doing it in a manner that it is not extracurricular. It is outside of school, so the school doesn't have their fingers in needing the extra insurance and everything else that they've needed in the past for the summer camp. But I know John Allen came in and said when he and Dan were both there, they needed to sit down and discuss it to see what they could get worked out
So they're gonna just sign up for Dan's program as individuals?
for winter school.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they'll figure out how to get them here. That was one of the problems they had before when they wanted to do it, was the school wasn't willing to transport them back and forth on weekends and such. So it sounds like they've got a little bit more interest now, and they're gonna do what they have to do to make it happen. Snow removal equipment, we mentioned there that I called on it today and he told me January. Aviation conference starts tonight. It's a Tuesday night is always a barbecue that they do as a farewell to someone that's retiring in the state, in the industry. I believe it's a woman from Indy International that they're honoring tonight. We'll have conference all day tomorrow with awards banquets tomorrow night. I am still on the scholarship committee. And then Thursday morning till noon as well. I was planning on going back on vacation again, but since I walked 10 miles and didn't see any birds this last day, we're not going back to the cottage. And actually, all of the sessions of the conference, the ones that I really want to see are Thursday morning anyway. So going up there for that. Our CAP meeting with the FAA, like I mentioned, is going to be by Zoom on the 21st. If anyone would like to be included in that, let me know and I will get you the information so you can zoom in as well. I think that's it. We've been very busy. All that concrete stuff just came about really fast and we just ran with it and got as much done as we could. And I was really happy to get a lot of that done. So, got a lot done the last month. We're gonna get a lot more done this next month and then we'll be ready to ride out the winter and see what it's like. And enjoy the taxiway. We've been having some meetings. I don't know how many of you are aware of. We have some local interest in building a hangar for Alpha Flight. PIDCO is involved. I don't know if you're familiar with PIDCO. It's Plymouth Industrial Development Corporation. It's a group of people that will build something for the industrial park. They bought property, they will then sell it or lease it to continue the income to continue to try and develop in Plymouth. And Marshall County Economic Development is involved a little bit as well, but I think for the hangar build, they're looking more at PIDCO. And we've been having some meetings with the company that Alpha Flight is buying the aircraft from to see if there's any chance of getting them to locate here. So Phil's been involved with the meetings and
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
gonna continue to be. It's a lot of people involved in the meetings from mayor, city attorney, Alpha Flight. I've brought in some engineers from Wolpert for some of the meetings. I brought in one of Wolpert's engineers that actually used to be our consulting engineer a dozen years ago. So he's very familiar with our airport, but hadn't seen it in a dozen years and was shocked when he came in for the meeting.
I bet he was.
But he also sat and listened to the whole meeting, and at the end of the meeting, they asked for comments, and they realized after that they wish they'd have asked him for comments before because it's what he does. He is now was promoted to being a vice president for Wolpert and is very sharp, and development is what he likes. So he gave him a lot of things to think about. I also arranged for him to meet with Alpha Flight to see if he could help them down the road of what they really needed in the way of a hangar, so we could start getting some real numbers put to it. And I think he created more questions for them than and I prepped him 2 weeks in advance to be thinking about it. And Dan came out of it and said, I have more questions now than I did before that meeting, but it's because of stuff he gave them to think about. So we'll continue with that as well. And in our signing that Alpha Flight did, my friend John Allen from Delta was there and he stood up and gave him some praise and discussed some of the things that the consultant that we hired was happy to hear him say, basically down the lines of, we need local, political and private money to help make an airport thrive instead of trying to rely on FAA money all the time. So they were really happy to hear him get up and talk about that. And I introduced him to the consulting firm afterwards and told him he would be someone that would be willing to help as they had questions as well. So he's been a good asset.
So to that point that you're bringing up, Bill, does the capital improvement plan that we have moving forward, at least what's been presented, does some of that need to be reevaluated based on what we just discussed here?
Yeah. So we'll present it like this to the in the CIP meeting next week, but then we'll discuss it and probably make some changes to it. And there will be people in that meeting there that are aware of some of this, so that they can adjust accordingly. Some of it we're trying to keep a little quiet just because there's communities that if they knew what we were working on could go all out and do some things that we couldn't to make it happen. So it's gonna be a year-long process. But it's good things, the taxiway. It's just gonna bring a lot more opportunities, you know that. You guys see it at airports all the time that, you do the right things and it creates a lot more great opportunities. And I think we're gonna see a lot of other opportunities down the road that we haven't even thought of yet, that taxiway is gonna help along with trying to expand property a little bit. So all good stuff. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, runway and grounds and financials.
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else from anybody?
We adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.